Family has several sightings at a summer cabin near Winnemic. Year, 1953 to 1976, SEASON, Summer State, Indiana County. Pulaski County location details. All the sightings were near the Dentwood Cabins, right off River Road, just outside of Winnemic. Nearest town, Winnemic. Nearest road, River Road. Observed. These are my husband and his family's accounts. The first sighting was in 1953. The Tippecanoe River runs beside a cluster of cottages near the little town of Winnemic, in northern Indiana. A long suspension bridge spans the river, and was the only means of getting to the 5 cottages, other than by boat. At each end, floodlights were mounted, and at night, each lighted the bridge halfway across. The bank of the river was rather steep. Behind the group of cottages, the woods was thick and dense. Children were not allowed to wander there, and play was confined largely to the area right around the cabins. 2 brothers, each with large families, had come for the weekend to enjoy fishing, boating, and just generally being together. My husband, one of the children, was then about 5. On this particular day, a group of little girls, his sisters and cousins, were playing between 2 of the cabins. The grown-ups and some of the children were inside. About the middle of the day, terrified screams came from the group of girls. When the adults, hearing the screams, ran outside, they found the girls crying hysterically and pointing towards the woods. A huge creature, about 7 feet tall, walking on 2 legs, covered from head to toe, with long dark hair, was walking the other way, towards the tree line. He was walking upright, on 2 feet. One child was saying that it had touched her, others were saying that it had just one eye. A rifle was brought out from the cabin, and one man, my husband's father, took aim. He had the beast in his sight, held the gun for a few seconds, and then lowered it. Cries of, "Shoot him," could not persuade him to fire at the beast. When asked later why he didn't shoot, he said, "I was afraid that I might be shooting a man." One of his children, now my husband, came running outside with the adults and saw the creature's back as he walked towards and into the woods. 10 years later, in 1963, my husband, then 15, and his family, were once again spending the week in one of the cottages. Late one night, after all the others had gone to bed, he was down on one of the docks. Loving the river at night, he often walked its banks. On this particular night, he began to hear a movement coming from behind the cabins at the edge of the woods. He walked up the bank, and went around to the back of the cabin to see what was making such a ruckus. There, in the darkness, coming out of the woods slowly, was the same creature that had frightened the family 10 years ago. He ran back to the front porch, hurried into the house, and woke up his father. The 2 of them, without waking the others, went onto the screen porch, which was in front, towards the river, and in the darkness, with a .22 rifle and only the bridge lights shining, they waited. They began to smell a terrible stench, like that of rotten meat, getting worse as the creature neared them. This cabin was right next to the bridge. They knew that if the creature was going to cross it, he would walk right by them, about 10 feet away, and pass under the light. Inside the cabin, the family dog was beginning to whine. They stood quietly, and soon the creature was beside them, about 10 feet away. He seemed to be intent on going for the bridge. As he passed the porch, he turned and looked towards the teen and his father, but seemed not to see them, and didn't regard them in any way, nor the dog, which was now howling and tearing at the door. The creature made his way to the bridge. As he passed under the floodlight on the cabin side, he was clearly seen as huge, covered with dark hair, and walking upright like a man. The smell was horrible. When he got to the bridge, he went down on all 4s and began to cross it using his arms and hands, as well as his feet. When he passed the halfway mark on the bridge, and neared the other side of the bridge, the dog was let out on the porch and crashed through the screen door, running after the creature. It raced across the bridge. By this time, the creature had crossed the bridge and was in the darkness beyond. The teen and his father could only guess what was happening by the sounds they heard, growling, fighting noises, and then whimpering and yelping. The dog came back to the cabin covered with cuts and blood. The only other time that anyone said that the creature had been seen was an account told to me by my husband's niece, who often stayed in the same cabin as a child. She said she woke up one morning and saw a large, yellow, hairy creature looking through the door. He left quickly. This was about 1976. Other witnesses. The first incident was witnessed by maybe 8 or 9 people. Prior to the incident, the children were playing in the yard. The adults were in the house. In the second incident, there were only 2 witnesses. One had been at the riverbank, walking, the other was asleep in the cabin. In the last incident, there was only 1 witness and she had been sleeping. Other stories. No time and conditions. The first sighting was in the middle of the day, the next, 11 or 12 at night, and the last early in the morning. Environment. There was a thick, dense woods behind the cabins. It was in a rural farming area, right beside the Tippecanoe River. A suspension bridge is the only access to the cabins, but they are located near the road, on the other side of the river. Follow-up investigation report by BFRO investigator Stan Courtney. I spoke at length with the witness by phone. Even though it has been a number of years ago, he remembers with vivid detail the events of the encounters.
Footprint found in the snow near Francisville. Year 1988. SEASON. Winter State, Indiana County, Pulaski County. Location details. It is at the Old Oaks Campground. The county line is less than a mile from there where it meets Jasper County. Nearest town, Francisville. Nearest road, 114. Observed. My friends and I were going for a walk and we came across a bare footprint. It wouldn't have seemed odd, but it was in the melting snow and it was the only one we could see. We ran to my parents and told them what we found, and we brought a tape measure and took a Polaroid picture of it. It only measured 13 to 14 inches long, which is not very long at all, but it did seem wide. I don't know how significant this information is, but you never know. It was a long time ago, anywhere from 10 to 15 years ago. I guessed on the year. I think I was anywhere from 8 to 10 years old. Also noticed, it was near the trailer park where people live. Deep, and there was no one living in the campers that were there in the winter. The footprint was headed back towards the woods. Other witnesses. I can't remember who all were there, but there were at least 4 of us. Other stories. No. Like I said, I don't think this is too significant because we never saw anything but the footprint. I do still have the photo. Time and conditions. We found it in the morning. And it was pretty cold and dreary. Footprint was melting and icy. Environment. The place is surrounded by woods and fields and the highway is nearby. Follow-up investigation report by BFRO investigator Stan Courtney. I spoke with the witness phone. She sent me photos of the track, however they did not show enough detail to be included with this report.